Good evening. Nice to see you. It is quite a late night, and I am just coming on to kind of close my day out, to close my week out, and kind of clear the week off and set the intention for the weekend. I have a I have a had a big day. Was at the hospital today, which was kind of a nightmare. I was at the hospital today dealing with a little personal family situation, and it was really stressful. And yeah, it ended up eating up my entire day, and I ended up home this afternoon and asleep at like 9 9 p.m., like in the sort of lounge chair. And then next thing I know, I'm like awake at 11:30 or something, and the crew's still awake. And yeah, I was a little bit like kind of refreshed. And I ended up finishing a book a little small book that was really nice. And um, I just kind of like wanted to have like, I don't know, this notion of like, you see these YouTube channels out there that are into like daily streaming. They're into like, they're going to put some content out there every single day. Um, I'm not doing that, but I can relate to that. I can relate to the challenge that one might set for themselves to kind of, um, just go for it and be putting out content on a daily basis. And I find that I find that pretty interesting. I'm kind of I can completely relate to building something that you might appeal to you. By you, I want to say what's up to Grasshopper TV in the house. Nice to see you here, and I am one of us in the house. What's up? Nice to see both you guys. Yeah, let me know where in the world you guys are tuning in from. I just have a smorgasbord of things to talk about before the weekend, and I won't go on too long here. But there's something I want to read, and there's something I just like a few things I want to like think about, and I don't know, not necessarily get off my chest per se, but just to like kind of clear the palate and start afresh. Sometimes I feel like I heard this quote by one of my favorite artists, John Baldessari. He says this thing about um, you have to be art. Like being an artist is like three kind of things, and if I can remember them all, it's like one of them is like talent is cheap. So like there's somebody coming up right behind you. You got to be in the right place at the right time. And the third, and I think being in the right place at the right time is kind of like about being. It's sort of like the more times you put yourself like it's luck, right? It's like it's essentially saying the right place at the right time is like a lucky break that you might get. But the more often you put yourself in a position to be lucky, the more likely chance that you actually will be lucky, which actually isn't luck in the end, it's perseverance. But yeah, being in the right place at the right time. And the other one is you have to be obsessed, which you cannot will, he says. And you cannot be obsessed which you cannot will. And I always like look at my obsessed artist friends and I think to myself, wow, I wish I was obsessed like they were. I wish I just like, I wish I had that thing. I wish that it wasn't so not necessarily formulaic, but just so so clunky. Like why am I always like struggling to do, why am I always like, why do I have to why do I have to desire to be compelled? Why can't I just be compelled? But I think actually this is compulsion. This is like getting up and like not even necessarily sure where you're going, even though it might seem like misguided or a crapshoot or unplanned. And it's still like I'm coming here because I'm like compelled to. I'm like compelled to. Okay, call it narcissism, call it self like absorption, but I have things that I want to like get out of my head to make room for the next what do they call it, the next break that's coming right behind it. I know it's coming, I can feel it, and if I don't clear some space for it, the beach is going to be it's going to be a mess. So Where to start? The vox pop thing has sort of been an interesting experiment. I'm not going to say it's like fresh. It's been going on for quite some time, and it inspired me to sort of like think a little bit more deeply about it. And I wanted to share a couple of things about the vox pop. Vox pop. I don't even know what vox pop is. Somebody put that word in my vocabulary only in the last month, maybe, or 6 weeks or so. I want to see you do some more vox pops. I love your vox pops. I'm like, what's a vox pop? That's industry lingo. But I found out that vox pop is like it's Latin. It's like the 5,000 years old. It's vox is voice and pop is people. And yeah, so I had said that I just because was kind of flirting a little bit more with this. I really am driven to try to get on at a weekly time. I want to have a dependable stream for you. Like I've just come on out of the blue because I was compelled to come on out of the blue tonight. And it's my night. It's in my middle of the night. My whole crew has finally finished watching movies and have gone to sleep, and I'm going to be up just for a little bit longer. And but I want to have I do genuinely want to have like a thing that you can rely on. Oh, Brian's going to come on at this time, and like whether or not that's your bag or not, I just want to like be accountable to either myself or to those who are like encouraging me to keep going on it. So and I got asked, a few times. I'm just going to go through a few of the mechanics of it real quick. So I have like, iPhone, typical iPhone 15 or whatever. It's a couple years old, but it's the good one. It's the one with the good cameras and stuff. And I have it in a case usually. But what I was doing for the longest time was I was walking around with a gimbal. I don't have my gimbal with me, but should I grab it real quick? For the sake of this conversation, I'll grab it. It's right over there. It's a big no-no to like walk off screen, right? So anyway, I don't know, like some months ago, I found out that this DJI Osmo thing, I forget what it's called, is like you undo it this way and then you undo it this way, and then you stick your phone to it. It's got like a little phone thing and you stick your phone to it. And it's kind of this configuration, and you end up, I don't think I want to. It's got a little special adapter, but you end up using this little remote control thing to move it around. Maybe you guys are all familiar with gimbals, and it's got this kind of selfie stick on it, and it's actually kind of like it's pretty useful. But sometimes when I'm using it, I'm like walking around and I'm like, hey, I'm doing the thing. And then like, I'm like, oh wait, I need my phone. I need to look up something real quick. I need to get somewhere or somebody's asking for something. And if my phone's in service, then I can't use it. And plus it's got this like joystick and it's like, you want it to go left and it goes right. It's called kind of all upside down. And it was just kind of like, it was good for what it is, but it kind of wasn't working for me that well. And the only reason that I kind of sprung for it was because like I found out it was like $150 or something. I found out it was like ridiculously cheap. And I was like, wow, that's all it cost. And maybe that doesn't sound cheap, but it did to me at the time. And so like I went and picked one up, and then I just found myself like kind of a little bit frustrated with it. And I ended up springing eventually for one of these like little action cameras. And I was doing the action camera, on the selfie stick, and I found out that it has the same sort of image stabilization that the gimbal has, and the gimbal has something special. It's got this fluid thing that's happening, but this thing also has it. Essentially, it's slightly different, but it essentially has it. And what's more is that when you're using the gimbal, you're using like the inside camera. You're using like your kind of crappy inside camera. And so with the thing like this, then you get to use the like 4K or 1080, or you get to use some higher resolution thing. And it's got it. They put the screens on the front of them, and it's kind of cool. Mine's a DJI Action 4. It's like the previous version. And let me just make sure I'm not missing any of you guys. Okay. And so I was using this, or I do use this, and I'm using it a lot. And how did I get from? What did I? What? Oh, so but I can't stream from this. Is the thing? You can't stream from the thing. You actually can, so long as you have like you're connected to the app that's on here. You have to have this app called the Mimo app, and then you need a Wi-Fi thing. They won't. You need like a third Wi-Fi source to be able to stream. So it's like you can't stream from this thing, but you can stream. You can stream from your phone, but you can't stream from the GoPro without like a Wi-Fi. So you can't do Vox Pop, on the street with the GoPro, or you can only do it with the phone. So I started. Okay, we're gonna make the phone the main camera again. So I started using the phone again, and I was using again the inside camera. And at night, especially, that's when really the true sort of technical colors of your camera come out. When I say, I mean the real, mustard of your specs will show. And it doesn't resolve that great in low light. And so I really wanted, I've got these great cameras on the front of the camera, and but I can't see myself when I do it this way, right? When we're looking at the camera like this, I can't see myself on the front. So I just wanted to share with you that I sprung for something. I got it used, and it was like $40. It wasn't expensive at all, and it was this little monitor. And I kind of just want to like show this off a little bit. This might appeal to some of you, maybe not, but it might appeal to some of you. It is by the maker Small Rig. Let's see if I have my I may just leave it. I'll just leave it here. But it's made by Small Rig, which you might know. You probably know this brand. It's kind of like a pretty dependable brand. They make like camera cages and tripod stuff, and they make all these gizmos that really, professional studios are using, or semi-pro studios. And they make this little monitor that you can stream to. You can actually stream. You basically can do screen mirroring from your phone to this device, and it has a QR code on it. And you just get your QR code going. Dun 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 dun. You join the network. It puts out a little Wi-Fi network, and then you go to you swipe down so you can get all your little gizmos, and then you go to screen sharing, and you select this device as your screen sharing thing. And then boom, it's screen sharing. So if I go to like my camera, like I'm getting the screen. So what happens is I can use these front cameras, and I can put this screen on the front of my camera, and then I can see myself. And you'll notice here that the image is, I don't know if you can see, but the image is upside down. So what I can do is I can double press this thing, and it turns the image right side up. And next thing you know, I'm live streaming, and that's my camera. And I'm like, I can see myself, and I can use the good cameras on the front. So that's my new little gizmo. That's kind of cool. And it wasn't that much. It really didn't break the bank at all, and it seems to be working quite well. And I wanted to share that. I thought it's a pretty neat little gizmo, and there's lots of like off brands, and there's lots of this one Small Rig. I sprung for it because it actually has like fewer bells and whistles than some of the other like off brands, or I should say like the Huawei-ish and sort of Xiaomi, Chinese named brand things that are probably really good as well. But this thing has like an aluminum case, and it looks like it's going to last a little bit longer. It might have like fewer features, and there is an issue with like the phone flipping around, but it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it, and it's working quite well. And so it has a magnet. Oh, it has a magnet on it, and the magnet just bing, and it's quite on there, really solid. And it's got a tripod thing. So you can use a case. You can use a case on your phone, but you have to be mindful that if you're using a case, it might like push this out and block. It might block the camera a little bit. So I'm using it, raw dogging it. I keep trying to remember this word, but I need to get like a little thin case with a special magnet. Like I need a little tiny bit of dialing in, but it's working really, really well. And what's happening is I'm using this screen.
Can you try again?
I'm using this screen on the street and I'm using this camera. And the one thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't turn off this monitor when you're using the front monitor. So what happens is I put this thing on a tripod and I'm out there on the street and I'm doing my, hey, how's it going? I got my microphone right here. I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? What's going on? And they can see that there is a visual on this side and on this side. And they can't really understand which side it's streaming from. So they get a little bit confused and they start posing in front of this side, which is a bit weird. But anyway, I'm just happy with it. I'm really happy with the rig. So obviously not like a gear review, but I want to put it out there as kind of a useful little thing for anybody who's out there making videos and you want to use your phone and you want to use these cameras on the front that are the good ones. This might be a nice option for you. And they're getting cheaper and cheaper. I saw them when they first came out, they were like a couple $100 and then they were like $100 and they were like $70 and now they're like $40. They're quite cheap. Grasshopper from Toronto says, what's up? Yeah, I knew you were up. I knew you were you're originally American, now living in the States. Is that the deal? Or, I mean, excuse me, now living in Canada, or are you Canadian? Orinoco Flojo, small rig makes or markets one of the better leather camera straps for around $20 US. It's really good value proposition for the quality if it's the type of neck strap you like. Yeah, I'm very happy with their quality stuff. In fact, this is not going to be a gear review live stream, but this actually is a metal cage for the actual DJI camera is just this little guy. And they give you a little plastic one of these cages things. They give you a pretty good one, but I sprung for the better one because I've got it on the motorcycle and stuff. And if you can see, it's got some very big dings on it because it's fallen off the bike a couple of times. So it's very, very useful. So yeah, check that out. Just look up DJI selfie monitor or something like that, and you'll be able to find it. I kind of recommend it. And it uses Wi-Fi. I'll let you know, some of them connect by Bluetooth, some of them connect by wires, and some of them connect by Wi-Fi. And this one happens to connect by Wi-Fi, which made me panic when I found that out at the last minute, because I was like, oh no, if it's using Wi-Fi, then maybe it can't get on the network. And if I can't get on the network, then this thing is pointless to have, because I want a vox pop with it. I want to be on the street talking to people. And if I can't get on my own telephone network, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it does. I'm still allowed to connect to it and to get on the network. And it seems to be like, I'll tell you, like for streaming, it seems to be really low latency, and for like actually using the camera, like using it for recording videos, it's got some latency to it, and I don't know if I could use it that way. That is the gripe. I haven't really played with it that much. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like if you're just recording video, there's actually a lag on it, and your mouth is not moving, and I don't think I could actually record a video like that. And I saw some reviews that said that they should have done better, and the connection's not robust enough for you to get a good stream going to it. But for live streaming, I lucked out. It works great. There's like no lag whatsoever. I guess because there's like a lower amount of pixels that are going like via live stream than recording. Like recording, it's asking for it's like for whatever, it's asking for 4K, and for live stream, it's probably asking for 1080p. Yeah. So dude ass face in the house, nice to see you, dude. So I've been really, really appreciating all the encouraging words on the vox pop thing. And I'm still trying to figure out, 40, did I miss the book review? We're not going to review maybe we're actually, I'm going to talk about the book, and we haven't started talking about it yet. But what I've been doing with these vox pops is I'm just like going like in some random place in Shibuya or Shimokizawa, like basically near the station, and waiting for people. And some people have suggested, why don't you just go wait by the by one of the record stores? Why don't you just go wait outside by in front of the record store? And I've just tried to explain it a couple of times where it's like it's just I don't really want it to be about the record store. I want it to be about the street. I want it to be about like the public space. And I also don't want it to be like affiliated per se to a record store at any one time. And the idea of like catching, like, I don't know. I want to go fishing at sea. I don't want to go fishing like in a pond or in a lake. A little bit hard to articulate, but the idea is like, I want to, I'm playing kind of a long game. And I think to just like pop a squad outside of a record store, I don't think it's the short-sighted thinking. I think I might, especially in Japan, like I think it maybe back home it would be kind of easy, and the record stores they'd be like kind of open to the idea. They'd be like, fuck yeah, go for it, dude. Yeah, but you're gonna stream, yeah, absolutely. Free advertise, yeah. But Japan, it's just like the reason that they don't want, I would say the first reason that they don't want video is because it disrupts the customer experience. And so that's kind of where it stems from, which you can kind of, appreciate that. And, it's logical and it's Japanese and like that, it makes sense. But you can say, but it's a missed marketing opportunity. And I'm like, yeah, but the customer experience is worth more than the marketing opportunity. That's maybe what they would say. And I want to have the opportunity to explain that to corporate rather than having my reputation work its way up there and, kind of shoot myself in the foot. But a couple of people, Joe Williamson and Dan, suggested, hey, you should go out, you should make a sign that says like, show me your records. And I thought, oh, that's a great idea. And I said, actually, I've done that before. And I've actually, I replied to some other comments about, wow, I could never like be out on the street and like just talk to strangers. And I said, oh, this is not my first rodeo. I've done this a bunch before. So what I did was like, I was going to make like a little post about, I was going to make like one of those like community posts about some of the times that I've done this. So I was just going through my photo archive and I found some photos and I'm going to share them with you. I think I'm just going to I should have put them in like a keynote or something, but I'm just going to share a little window here with you, and you'll get a kick out of this. I am going to make a post about it, but let me show you some of these photos. They're kind of fun. Here we go. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to zoom in or not. Come on. Okay, there it goes. Okay, it's a little wonky, but here we go. This is in Nichome, and this is me with my Linhof, or this is not me, but it's just my Master Linhof Master Technica 4x5 camera. Really amazing camera. This camera, I'm so proud of this camera because it was brand spanking new when I bought it. It's probably from 1960, I don't know what year it's from. They made the same form factor for probably a couple of decades. And I'm sure this is an early one, but I don't know if I can zoom in. Maybe I can. I don't know how the resolution is not going to be that good, but I'll pull up some better resolution images. But so you'll see here it says in Japanese Polaroid shashin 500 yen, and then it says instant street portrait 500 yen. And this is how I used to catch people on the streets of this happens to be in Nichome in Shinjuku. And people just come up and I have this giant banner of a lot of the people that I photographed, and I would have this little explanation of some of the work that I'm doing. And then people would come and be like, yo, what's this? And I'd be like, oh, I'm making photos on the streets of Tokyo. And I do this like literally every weekend. And sometimes I'd see my buddies. This is my friend Eddie and my friend Asa, and they just kind of like, in Shimokitazawa, you just see your friends come by and they'd be like, hey, we got to get a picture of me and my girlfriend or me and my homies. And then they'd throw you 5 or 10 or $20. And I was putting it towards this project that I was doing. So we did it all year round. This is my friend Sophie. And I think we were trying to get to Oklahoma, and I got my photo Oklahoma hat on because I repeated this project in this photo giving project in not just in Japan. It's a long story, but I need to make a video about it. It's basically a volunteer project where I use photography to give photos to people in need, essentially. And we need some capital to run the project, and so we had enough of this film. We still have enough of this film to like be able to go out on the streets of Tokyo and make photos for the public and raise funds to complete our project. So it's kind of fun. And here's like instant street portrait, and I think I have a bunch of them here actually. Here I am in Ebisu taking a picture of my friend Saya sitting on the thing. Here's Asa and his girlfriend, and I'm using like this is a Jihanki. This is the vending machines, and like that, I'm using that light over there on the right side as a light source. This was something I ended up. This is getting a little bit off topic, but I ended up going to Oklahoma to do this in Oklahoma. And this is my art teacher, and I was she just ended up in this collection of photos. I forgot that I had her in here. There's Miss Short. Shout out to Miss Short, one of my favorite teachers. And yeah, I was trying to pull together. There's so many photos, and at first I was just grabbing photos of like the photo studio in action, and then I thought, oh wait, maybe I should grab all the photos of the people that I took. But yeah, like these 4 guys would roll up and they'd be like, yo, what's your camera about? And I just had this like really rinky-dink cardboard, cutouts that I just like literally like duct taped onto the tripod. Oh, by the way, this is a French-made Gitzo tripod, like extremely rigid, awesome tripod. It's the perfect combo for the West German-made Linhof Master Technica. I'll mention the lens too. I have a Schneider Xenotar 2.8 150 millimeter lens, which you can look that one up. Very, very nice lens. And there I am working. There's Flash Disc Ranch in the back. Flash Disc Ranch used to let me like come and hang out in front of their place. There's my rabbit hat. And yeah, you get to make photos like this. This is just like one random one that I pulled out of and people would come and they'd be like, yeah, stand next to this vending machine. And so yeah, I'd make these photos, and then we'd use the money to like buy these bus tickets to go up to the devastated areas. And these photos, like I didn't keep these photos. They got to leave. They got to keep these photos, right? Everybody paid $5 or $10 or whatever, and they got a couple of photos, and they walked off and they got the photos. And sometimes before they would leave, I'd be like, yo, let me get one photo of that one. That was a good one. And I would take a photo of the photo. And that's kind of how Tokyo Record Style started. It's a different version of that. I'm not giving away photos. We call this project like, we're not taking photos, we're giving photos. That's sort of the nature of the project. But I thought about like, I'm out there doing vox pops and I'm not doing the photos, which is what Tokyo Record Style is. Tokyo Record Style is stopping those people on the streets, having those exact conversations that you saw me have in the last couple of days. But it's actually saying, okay, you hold the record like this. I'm going to do one from far away, and then I'm going to come up and do a close one of just the record. And then I want you get your girlfriend, and then you guys two together. I'll take a picture of your style. It's 3 shots. It's one of you holding the record, it's one of the record, and then it's one of the thing. And then I go home and I write these stories about them and I listen to the music. And that's what Tokyo Record Style is. And when I'm doing these vox pops, it has the element of the like connection and the musical talk, but it doesn't have I've lost the photo thing. It's become a video thing. And I thought about, maybe I should bring the photo thing back into the vox pop. And the one implication is that if I walk away from the camera, that's the video camera that's recording, I run the risk of somebody just snatching the camera up, which is highly unlikely to happen in Japan. But I would need to like walk away from the camera to a degree. I'd still be mic'd up, and it would be an interesting thing. And whether I bring in like instant, like I'm not sure yet. I'm still kind of working on it. By the way, I think I'm deciding. Well, anyway, I'll come back to that. Yeah, sometimes like the groups would come by and it'd be like the end of their work day or their end of their night, and I'd be like, yo, and they're like, oh, we're all a crew, and then like I'd make 4 photos for 4 of them, and then I'd be like, okay, you each take one, and then they're like, do we have to pay 500 yen? And I'd be like, it's up to you, and they're like, oh, we'll just give you $20. It's a good cause. And then this is Flash Disc Ranch, and Flash told me, yo, just set your studio up here, and then if anybody, the cops come and tell you that you can't, be here, then just you tell them that I told you that you can be here. So Tsubaki-san at Flash Disc Ranch, that's why I'm a giant Flash Disc Ranch fan, is because Tsubaki-san said that this could be my little spot. And yeah, so my friend Tommy and James, and here's another little spot. And then again, like I would find these big glass, or these big light panels, and I'd be like, oh, this is a good spot. And there was a gal and a guy on the streets of Shimokitazawa playing guitar the other night. I play guitar on the streets of Shimokita. I go sit down and I go busk, believe it or not, and not even really to to earn any money. It's just to go out there and like just be on the street. I don't know if I've really talked about this on the channel, but like that's my home turf, not Shimokitazawa, but the sidewalk. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Maybe let's mix it up on the sidewalk. What you got going? What are you doing? Like that's my whole, like that's my world. That's where I like to be. And so this vox pop thing is really it suits me, even though this word, I only learned this word in the last whatever, a couple months. Another couple of my homies, a lot of light flare here. This was made quite a while ago, but this is the 4x5 camera, and the image is upside down. It's one of those where it's like you're looking through the camera and the whole thing's upside down. It's a really interesting way to compose. I love it. It's like I said the other day, like if you could pick any place on earth where you would want to be, this is the spot right here. This is the very spot that is my, like anything, like I can manage this spot. I can't manage all other aspects of my life, but I can manage this spot very comfortably. So I love having the loop. I love having like putting the loop up on the glass and making sure it's all in focus. And I like playing with the tilt and be like, okay, you guys look good. Okay. And the whole art of like using this camera is it's setting the whole thing up. It's getting 2 people like in a place that they're not quite posed. And then it's like, they can't move is the thing that you don't realize. Like if they move, you have to focus in on them. Then if they move slightly, which they always do, unless you're really good at this, which I am, not to brag, but like if they move, you got to start all over, because the depth of field is so shallow that if they're like, they don't understand that unless you sort of puppeteer them. I'm a marionette guy with my subjects, essentially, not to make it subversive or anything, but I've just done it. I could do it with my eyes closed. I could tell somebody else to do it with my eyes closed. I just know where everything is on this thing. It's a very empowering and it's a very empowering thing to do, and to I don't mean to sound boastful, but just like not everybody gets to have this opportunity to use these big cameras, and it's like to have the opportunity to like use them and go through photos like tissue paper. Not everybody gets to do that, and so it's been a very, very, very big blessing. Here I am, like back in the background, like with my cardboard signs. Hey, $5 photo for $5. So I am definitely going to take up Dan's and Joe Williamson's idea to make a cardboard sign. So it won't be the first time that I've made a cardboard sign, but I definitely will do that. And I think it was a brilliant idea, and I'd forgotten about it. I'd forgotten all about the cardboard sign. This is my homie Yuko. This is young Brian. This is probably me 15 years ago or something like that. We were out there on the streets making photos at a flea market. This was like in the early days of the Photo Hoku project. And she is not my partner, but we're homies. And this is like our homie pose. And her husband is like my brother-in-law, and my wife is like her sister-in-law, and our kids are like cousins. And even though we're not related, she's like my sister. She's kind of like my kid sister. She's kind of like my big sister. I have 2 little sisters at home. who I love dearly and miss terribly, and she's kind of like my sister. Here she is, Yuko is her name. We're in Oklahoma City, in Moore, Oklahoma, where these big tornadoes were, and we brought our camera there, and we did like weeks of work there, which was really amazing. And we've been to the Philippines together, and here I am again. This is pre-sobriety Brian, having a beer on the street, mixing it up with some people, and here I am. Yeah, can I zoom in on this one? Yeah, there's the cardboard sign. Let's find some nice light somewhere in Shimokitazawa. And I'm always looking for light, and that's really what I want to talk about tonight. Is that I want to talk about light. I'm going to come back to light here in a second. I think that's about all the photos. Yeah. This guy is kind of a famous photographer. He's become a really famous photographer. There's the light meter. You got to use a light meter, which is kind of fun. So thanks for letting me share that. I'm going to actually make a social post on one of those posts and be like, yo, I dug up some of the photos from the cardboard thing. And I just want to like be able to go back and remember some of those. But there's a bunch more of these photos, but I just pulled out some handy ones that I had that were all like, they were like kind of like in Facebook. The next thing I got a few gifts this week that I want to say thank you for. This is kind of silly, but my friend Asuka-san, she's a Japanese gal who's been living in America for like 20 years, who I got to know through my friend Bemsha, who I spin records with. And she started bringing me back Girl Scout cookies once a year. So I'm very happy. This is really fun because it's connected to another little piece of, where did that go? My friend Bemsha. So she goes back to school with Bemsha. And Bemsha's like he's like 15 years older than I am, and they went to university together. And I don't know why she took to me, but his one of his best buddies, Asuka-san, this lovely gal, her husband is American. She comes back to Japan every year, and there was something parallel about our relationship. So she just became kind of like a pen pal to me, and she sends Girl Scout cookies, and her son is living here, and she's telling me, hey, my son's into records. You got to invite him to one of your record things. And so she brought some cookies back for me, and she gave them to Bemsha, my homie. And she said, give these cookies to Brian. I don't have time to meet him on this trip. So Bemsha said, hey, man, I need to send you some. Asuka-san brought some cookies for you. I got to meet up with you so I can give them to you. I was like, dude, here, do me a favor. Do me a solid, dude. Eat the cookies, because he's this paper thin kid, essentially he's just svelte guy, well-dressed svelte guy. And I said, eat the cookies, share the cookies with your family, tell Asuka-san that you ate the cookies, but tell her that you gave the cookies to me, but just please, I don't need a box of chocolate cookies. And he said, okay. And then about 5 days later, the cookies showed up at my house in a box. He sent them, and it's so easy to send people things in Japan. And not only did he send me the box of cookies, he actually kind of burdened me with having to return the favor because it was just so nice. But he sent me a little packet of postcards. I'm going to show them to you. They're really nice. He says, hey, Brian, hope everything is fine with you and your family. Here's the box of cookies that Asuka asked me to give to you. Enjoy, take care, and stay safe from the heat. Peace. But he actually sent me a message. He was like, it wasn't actually your choice to deny the cookies. It was her. I was obliged to give them to you, and I couldn't possibly not give you the he couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. But he also sent some postcards, and unfortunately they're not going to come through totally well. But this is where it starts to get a little bit weird, because these postcards that I'm going to share you, they're connected to another story that's going to come this weekend. So they are here. I'll do it. I'll turn on my autofocus. I'm going to have to turn it off again, but just give me a second. The autofocus is not so good on this lens, I think. I'm not sure if it's the lens or the camera. Come on, baby. Hold on. Oh, wire. Okay, let's see. Okay, so these are the Beatles in 1964. I think it's 64 at the Budokan. These were they played 5 nights in a row. I think it was 64. Might have been 66. But that is the Budokan. You can see this video on YouTube. just so sweet. Bemsha sent me these nice postcards, you know. He just was like, you know, this was like a little bonus. He just like couldn't send me the cookies. He had to send me also the postcards. And that is at the Okrida Hotel, I think. I know this where this sign is. And there the boys are wearing their funky suits. Oh, so I did that one already. And there they are. You know the one where they've got the like the red shirts on. And they've got that silly kind of backgrounds. And they had the I think that's the Okrida Hotel. It might be the Capitol Hotel, which I think is it might be gone by now. I can't quite remember. There they are having a press conference. There they are in their red shirts. You can go watch this YouTube video. It's been bootlegged about a lot of times. But bless his heart, Bemsha sent these to me. God, isn't that killer? So the guy who took these photos, I think, is somebody who's going to be featured on a video that I'm making tomorrow, which is really cool. So thank you, Asko-san, for the Girl Scout cookies. Let me turn my autofocus off because it just gets so wonky. It really just dances all over the place. Did I get it? Okay. Something like that. For the Girl Scout cookies and Bemsha, thank you for the Beatles postcards. And yeah, I mean, how nice is that? Let me read some of these comments. Let's see. Miss Short. I see some of you commenting on my teacher, Miss Short. Hi, Miss Short. Miss Short was the greatest. I was thinking, I was going to make this post about high school. I saw her and she was my high school art teacher. And I don't remember like many projects that I did in her class. And I don't really think of her as like a particularly influential teacher, but she's one of the only teachers that I remember. I think I hated high school. I had it easy. I didn't have like a hard time in high school, but there was a lot of reprimanding and like getting put in a box, like square, you know, round pegs getting slammed into square holes or whatever. And it wasn't, I don't have the fondest memories of it. And people, my friends who are from that era, they're like, what do you mean you don't have fond memories of high school? You were like, yeah, great. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, but I just like, I don't, you know, my mother had said to me at one point, like, you couldn't pay me all the money in the world to go back to high school. And I totally get that now. I found a copy of I Want to Hold Your Hand with this boy on for 400 yen, which is like $3. I hadn't seen that picture sleeve before on the Odeon label. And then I found like a handful of like $2 CDs. This is not, I didn't get all of these recently, but I was kind of like rounding out my granddaddy collection. I'm a big granddaddy fan, and this is like an EP. This is a compilation. Someday, Software Slump, and then Software Slump and Under the Western Freeway. This is, I picked those up at Reco Fan the other day. And then what I wanted to share is that the last thing, and this could go on for a little bit, but hold on, let me see. What made her a good tutor? My master's was in education, so let's hear it. Well, actually, I wrote about it. Okay, the thing that made her cool was that she didn't reprimand me. That's what I liked. That's what I loved most about her, is that she never, like, I probably was insubordinate and incorrigible and probably barely teachable just because I wasn't, my artistic, I know this is, I remember like I was the most artistic kid in like elementary school. Like in primary school, I could draw the most realistic people and the most, you know, realistic things, until one year my homie out of the blue, Tony Romanello, could somehow just like instantly outdraw me. And when I could be outdrawn, I suddenly, like, I remember feeling like horribly defeated, and my pride was like instantly I was devastated, and I sort of like abandoned. I was like, okay, science, we're going science, you know, we're going to be and whatever it was, you know, I don't know. I guess I'm not sure what that was about, but I remember that moment where I got out. I was like, oh, we had some class project where we had to like all collectively decide who was going to make the poster. And I remember they were like, "Oh, we got to ask Tony. He's the one who's the most artistic in the class," and it crushed me. And because I just like spent every day after school like drawing pictures of things, and this I was like literally like 7 years old or 8 years old. It was like I was very very young. But to the point of that, my friend Luis Mendo, who's made an incredible career as an artist, he has an interesting take on young artists, and he basically says that we all are born as artists basically, and we all basically unlearn to be artists. And when we're all little, like we can all draw, and there's no outdrawing anybody, and it's only like when we get slightly self-aware that we basically unlearn to become artists. And that's kind of what happened to me. And like photography almost is like I it was definitely reclaiming that to a degree. So about let me say, I want to come back to this question for you, but let me just say hi to Art, North Carolina vinyl picker. Nice to see you. Just got back from the park. I hope you had a nice walk, maybe walk the dog. Finally caught a live stream. Dallas in the house. Nice to see you. Concert buddy. Appreciate you here. Enjoyed the stream. Kind of need to go back, and I think I had to go to the hospital today. Got called away. Had a little family drama, and I missed some of the I missed the second half of the show. What do you call it? The free. I like how I'm a big fan of the Surface Noise show. I like all the patter. I mean just the whole thing is great, but I particularly love the patter. It feels like you should write a patter book, or you've read a patter book perhaps. Orinoco. I know that word. Is that like Enya? Is that the name of that record, Orinoco? How do I know that word? Orinoco Flojo. I feel like that's the Enya album. Where is Enya from? Is she Icelandic? Where is she from? Wasn't that the name of the album? Am I close? Granddaddy is great. I love Granddaddy. Huge Granddaddy. I heard Granddaddy recently compared to Radiohead, which I was like, oh, I never made that comparison before. And it was like Granddaddy or Radio, like how do I say it? Granddaddy could have been Radiohead, basically, is what I'm trying to say. The Radiohead that never was. Jason Lytle. I fucking love Granddaddy. If you don't know Granddaddy, you're missing out. Go check out Granddaddy. This question, just like what did she about the teacher? What did Miss Short? What did I love about Miss Short? I just love that she was like on the level. She was just like she wasn't. She just was like I'll tell you what it was. Lebenskünstler. I learned this word in German. Lebenskünstler. Leben is life. Skünstler is artist. I think even Skünstler might be like juggler. It's like a performer. Somebody, any Germans in that? Lebenskünstler. And performer, circus act. I'm not even sure. Life performer, life artist. Your life is your art. She wasn't particularly like blinged out or anything, but she had the glasses, and she had the jewelry, and she had the like stripes, and she just was like, she was cool and laid back, and she just was like, I could relate. And I would say, like, I'd turn in a homework assignment late, and she'd be like, oh geez, Brian, you're incorrigible, like, can't you do anything on time? And I'd be like, I'm sorry. And she'd be like, get out of here, and it was never like I played. There was a lot of cat and mouse chasing in my high school days with other teachers who were like reprimanding me and like sending me to detention and telling me to cut my hair and telling me to fit in a box and be quiet and don't do this and don't do that. And it's just like, I fucking hated them all. And there was about 2 or 3 of them that really cultivated, how to think and how to be and how to behave. And the rest of it was just like memorizing. And she was somebody who just like, she taught me how to, not what to think, but how to think. That's really what it was. How to be. And that's like her life as an art teacher was her art. That was what she, that was her product, if you will. Let's see. North Carolina vinyl picker. Hey, Chance. Yes, was walking with Jack. Enya Brennan is Irish. Okay, right. And is the Orinoco Flojo? I feel like Orinoco Flow. That's the name of the record. I like the Orinoco Flojo though. The family, hold on, let's see here. Where am I? The family she comes from are a band of Clannad. She sings Gaelic. Okay, very cool. Okay, quick side note here. I had a really crazy hallucination, I'll call it, once, where I tapped into some Celtic roots. I went off on a vision quest a long time ago, long time ago. And on Beltane, on May Day, on May 1st, I had this crazy psychedelic experience, and I got really tapped into my Celtic roots, whatever they might be. Let's see. Yeah, okay. It's a play on the Enya song. Okay, I got it right. Orinoco is also a river in South America. Okay, cool. I didn't know that. I was on Kevin had told me that he lived in Egypt and he'd traveled the length of Egypt. And a story about riding a bus that I had told a couple days ago sort of jogged his memory about a bus journey that he took across Egypt to Libya. And so I got on Google Maps today and I was like poking around all over Google Maps and like just dropping myself into the middle of the desert. And it was really interesting. It was really fun. Cool. Orinoco. Yeah, that sounds about right. Hey, Stunty's in the house. There's a current German TV show all about a state that abolishes jail and punishment. Okay, very interesting. I've heard that's kind of what they do in it's like low security prisons in like, yeah, Scandinavia. Don't they do that? Like Norway and Sweden. Dude as face says it's interesting the sign idea for the streams. I had thought of the sandwich board, but I thought that's too American. The cardboard sign is perfect. I think so too. I think the cardboard sign is kind of like it's on brand. It's quite lo-fi. It's pretty cool. So I think I'm going to go with that. Okay. Well, so here's the last thing that I'm going to go off on, and I really appreciate everybody hanging out. And I'm actually going to go on for a little bit longer here, but I found this amazing bookstore in my neighborhood. In my work neighborhood, and it was just like a little bookstore. I've mentioned it a couple times, but I walked into the place and I was like, oh, what's going on here? And they had a Henri Cartier-Bresson book in the window display, who is the famous photographer who came up with the concept the decisive moment, and he is the godfather, so to speak, of street photography, reportage, and life as it is on the street, and the decisive moment. And so when I saw his book in the display, I thought, oh, what's going on here? And I went in and I saw Dennis Hopper. I'm like, oh, Dennis Hopper, he's got a photography career, doesn't he? And then I saw who else did I saw? I just saw a bunch of interesting books immediately. Saw something Beatles related, which I'm going to talk about, which are connected to these postcards that I shared earlier. And I got to talking with them, and I said, what's this bookstore about? And they said, it's about philosophy. And I was like, ooh, it was almost like the never ending story. Like, you don't want this book. And I was like, no, I do want that book. And I don't really want to steal my own thunder, but it's a really cool bookstore, and it's curated in a really imaginative way. And I came across this book called In Praise of Shadows. And I just finished it tonight. It's a little tiny book. And the reason that I picked it up is because it was recommended by more than a couple of people who are curating the bookstore. And I kind of came across it, and then I came across it again, and I came across it a third time, and then a fourth time. I was like, what is up with this book? It's all over and I realized, okay, I got to read this book. It was kind of like the universe was like talking to me, saying like, read this book, In Praise of Shadows. So it's by an author who was, it was written in 1933. And it's about Japanese aesthetics and Japanese sensibility, really. And it's kind of like it's a long essay, essentially. And it meanders, and it's kind of, it's not exactly concise. And it's, I'm not sure. I'm not really prepared to review the book. I just finished it, but it's essentially, it's about light. Interestingly, it's about light. And there was a couple of, and it's about how light plays in to so many aspects of the Japanese aesthetic. And boy, was it good. It is a good read. Very, very interesting. Anybody who has a remote interest in Japanese philosophy and Japanese aesthetic, uh, you'd be well served to read this book. He famously, Genji, the epics of Genji, he translated. Wait, hold on. The Tale of Genji. Tanizaki spent a vast amount of time translating the Tale of Genji into modern Japanese. So, probably one of you guys know the Tale of Genji better than I do. Motogatari, from the year 1010. It was this story of this sort of like Homer, Ulysses story, and he goes on this crazy it's one of the only thing that I really know about it is it's like incredibly erotic, and he has some like hundreds and hundreds of lovers, and it's this pirate or adventurer who goes on these adventures, and it's kind of like I don't really know what it's about. I'll read it, but yeah, a very classic, important book of Japanese history, Japanese literature. And Tanizaki-san famously translated into modern Japanese in the 30s, I guess. And he was born in 1968 or 1980, or excuse me, 1886, I think, which was about 10 years after the Meiji Restoration. And he died in 1965. So this is quite an old book. But it was it was written in 33, and he talks about the radio. So and he talks about light, and he's just talking about he's basically talking about what the name of the book is, In Praise of Shadows. And he talks about how so much of like Japanese sensibility comes from not like culture per se, and not like just light or the absence of light or the presence of shadows. It has informed the Japanese aesthetic for thousands of years, and this nuance that we can't put too fine a point on it, that we often sort of think about when we're trying to describe Japanese aesthetics. He's kind of postulating that it all comes from light and shadows, and like that didn't necessarily appeal to me. That I wanted to read it purely for the fact that like it was on so many shelves that I was like looking at this bookstore. Like it'll all become a little bit more clear when I'm finished making this video. I made half of it last weekend, and then I'm making the other half of it this weekend. It's taken me quite a long time, and I don't know if it'll be a great video or not, but I'm going to share with you this record, or this bookstore tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow or this weekend. But I want to encourage you to read this book. I think you can find it out there. Yeah, In Praise of Shadows, if you're slightly interested in Japanese aesthetics. But there was a couple of things that I wanted to read to you, and this was the line that I read in the book that made me go, oh, that's the meaning of this book. And I don't know if that's so. Spoiler alert. Close your ears if you don't want to hear this line. But it actually relates to photography. I was in a round table of photographers some years ago, many actually decades ago, and I was asking what inspires you as a photographer. We were all sort of, just having a salon, and we were basically discussing the kinds of things. It was, freedom, a sense of home. Um, uh, what was another one? Like grit and grime, and texture, shadow. And one guy said like light inspires me, and I was like, that's a cop out. That's a lame answer. Light, come on. It's too on the nose. A little bit more. He's like, no, light is what inspires me. And I just thought it was kind of, for whatever reason, I thought it was a really kind of lame answer, until many years later, I was walking down the riverside, and all the cherry blossoms had fallen, and all the green leaves, the new green leaves, had come in. And I was just like walking along the sidewalk, and I noticed that on the sidewalk were these beautiful refracted light. There was all this beautiful reflected light, like bouquet donuts, like going all over the place in this crazy living organism of light. It was all the light that was filtering through the trees, and the little negative spaces between all the leaves were making these like little pinhole lenses essentially, and it was spraying light in the most gorgeous way, in a way that once the trees get all the leaves on them, the light doesn't filter through quite in this way. It was just a fleeting moment of the year when the light just filters through, and it's not like those beams that you see that come across like on a beautiful cloudy day. It's not that exactly. It's just it's, if you've ever used like a really, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but if you used really fast glass before, if you've used like really high quality camera lenses, you will know that they produce different kinds of fall off or bokeh, and the biggest apertures produce the craziest bokeh. And sometimes the fastest lens that you can get, the brightest lens that you can get, that has an aperture of 1.0. And I should know exactly what that means, but the difference between 1.0 and 1.2, it's in orders of magnitude. It's like, it's twice as much light. It's twice as many f-stops between 1 and 1.2. And then between 1.2 and 1.8, it's another order of magnitude. And then between 1.8 and 2.8, and these numbers start to sound maybe familiar: 2.8 and 3.5, 3.5 and 5.6, 5.6 and f8, and then f8 to f11, f11 to 22, and 22 to 64, or something like this. These photographers know these numbers, but an f1 is very, very expensive glass, and it creates this crazy effect that looks almost like an alien scene. It's so cool and so interesting. Unfortunately, it's like, it's so signature that you can't kind of unsee the art of it. Sometimes it's hard to get past the 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 quality of the glass. When I say, I mean the quality that the of image that the glass produces, to see the actual subject. It's sometimes is a distraction. But there are even lenses that are faster. It's like a negative, they're like light vacuums. And they needed, Stanley Kubrick famously used it in what's the one? You know the one, the candle Barry, what's it? Barry Lyndon? What is it? The Barry one. Which is an amazing movie. It's kind of got the Genji story. It's the guy who has like, he's a philanderer who goes around and, you know, Barry Lyndon, you know the movie. Amazing Stanley Kubrick movie. And he shot it, he wanted to shoot a film completely in candlelight, by candlelight. And to do that, he had to make a lens that was like faster than the fastest lens that they ever made. And that's why he's kind of like connected to these whole moon, what do they call it? Like fake moon landing stories, because the spy planes also, I think they, I'm getting off the topic here, but this really fast glass is not typically used. It's only used in like military or aerospace sort of applications, except Stanley Kubrick famously used them in movies. And this light quality that the sunlight was filtering through the trees is the exact same effect as those crazy expensive lenses. It exists in nature, and it's like a phenomena, a really amazing phenomena. And when I know it, I know that signature, and it's like by God, essentially. I'm like, whoa, there it is. And it's this, and not only is it there, but it's not fixed. It's moving and it's alive, and it's just insane. And it's called komorebi. I think it's called komorebi in Japanese, and maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about, but I don't remember seeing it until one day it just appeared to me, and it blew my mind, and it made me like appreciate light for like light in as light. You know, as a quality of light. I started seeing light just differently. Everywhere I looked, it was all about quality of light, and where is light coming from, and which direction, and how big and how small and how close and how far and how soft and how harsh and how yellow or how blue. And like everywhere I looked like it opened my eyes to a whole new thing. And I tell people when I'm photographing them, I photograph portraits a lot, and people are often uncomfortable in front of the camera. They don't know how to do, and so, and I'm working with them, but I often tell people, like, I'm not actually looking like into your soul through your eyes. I'm actually just like looking at the quality of light on your face, and I'm just trying to get the best balance of light. So when I tell you to move your nose a little bit this way and up, it's not because I'm looking for your best pose. I'm looking for I'm photographing the light. You are what is the light is on is you're the canvas for the light. That's the way I think about a portrait. The face is the canvas on which the light is painted upon. So, at least that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm like. That's what I aspire to try to photograph. So that's what I want to capture on film. Sounds a little bit, out there, I admit, but I truly do look at light, and I'm constantly looking at light, and I can see it. And sometimes it's like all wrong. I'm like, maybe you hear those. I don't want to like compare myself to somebody, like you hear like a sound engineer who's like, oh, it's awful. It's fingernails on a chalkboard, and they're like, oh, what? It sounds the same. That doesn't sound, it sounds the same to me. And somebody will say, no, it does. It's not, couldn't be further from the same. It sounds awful. Like that. Sometimes when I see light, I think this way. So anyway, this guy Tanizaki, he basically talks about the Japanese aesthetic, and he talks about how, like, in the West we tend to like illuminate everything, and we want things to be as vibrant and brilliant as they can be, and it has to do something with the psychology. And he's talking about Japan, and about how um, something might be more beautiful. It might have more, you might be able to experience more of its essence, not necessarily completely illuminated. In fact, its magic might disappear. It's only the magic of a thing, of whether it be a food, architecture. I mean, this guy, he goes off on some really interesting tangents, like all different kinds of things, from like, well, you'll hear, but he talks about how, like, a lot of Japanese aesthetic comes from experiencing things in light, or the absence of light, and the presence of shadows, which is a very, very cool conceptual book, which I wish I'd read this a lot earlier. But he says here, where should I start this? I suppose, let's see here. He's talking about, well, I'll just read. He says, I suppose it is hard for those who praise the fleshy beauty we see under today's bright lights to imagine the ghostly beauty of those older women. He's talking about the black teeth. The Japanese used to paint their teeth black. And he says it's connected to this shadow thing. He said, and there may be some who argue that if beauty has to hide its weak points in the dark, it is not beauty at all. But we Orientals, as I have suggested before, create a kind of beauty of the shadows we have made in out-of-the-way places. There is an old song that says, the brushwood we gather, stack it together, it makes a hut, pull it apart, a field once more. Such is our way of thinking. This ephemeral nature of all things. How there is an old song that says, the brushwood we gather, stack it together, it makes a hut, pull it apart, a field once more. Such is our way of thinking. We find beauty not in the thing itself, but in the patterns of shadows, the light and the darkness. That one thing against another creates. I can't really recommend this book enough, but let me read you a couple other interesting bits. This was something that I couldn't kind of believe I read this part. He says here, um, he's talking about how, oh, I wish we had like the old lanterns of old. And I realize that I'm just a curmudgeon complaining about how everything is built for the new and the young. And like, it's often, they're not thinking about the old ways of doing things. And he says, but do not think that old people are the only ones to find fault. The author of Vox Dei column in the Osaka Asahi recently castigated city officials who quite needlessly cut a swath of quite needlessly cut a swath through a forest and leveled a hill in order to build a highway through Mino Park. So it's kind of a pointless thing, but he mentions the author of Vox Dei, a column in the Osaka Asahi Weekly Post. I was just like, whoa, what the fuck is that about? So Vox Populi, I'm doing Vox Pop on the streets. I read it in this book that's written in 1933 today, which is very weird. And these Beatle postcards that came to me yesterday or earlier this week, they have something they're connected to something completely unrelated that you're going to hear about tomorrow. So it's just some very weird coincidences that are happening. So what I'm going to do finally here, and then I'm going to sign off, is I'm actually going to read the afterword of this. It's a couple of pages. It's actually not that short, but I'm going to read it, and it might not be your cup of tea, but I'm going to go through it, and it's going to just kind of sum up the book a little bit, or it's not. It won't steal the thunder of the book. You should still read the book. In Praise of Shadows, but I'm going to read the afterword here. I'll read some comments before I go right into it. Ominous autocorrect for I Am One of Us. Let's see. Okay, you guys are talking to again. Was it Dr. Strangelove you were trying to think of? No, Kubrick. No, I'm thinking of Barry Lyndon, I think is the name of the film. Barry Lyndon. Probably Clockwork Orange or The Shining. I don't think so. It was a candlelit. The nature, but he may have. Kubrick was like this famous. Kubrick used the same camera as I do. Basically, he used a Polaroid Pathfinder, and he was. I've seen the behind the scenes documentaries about Kubrick. Man, I would have loved to have met. That would be a hero to meet. I probably ought to read read a biography about him. I don't know well. Equates. Let's see. To find out, Orinoco Flojo. Yeah, there's I think it's Barry Lyndon. I think is the name of the book. That's Kubrick, right? I'm not mistaken about that. Equates beauty to modesty, maybe an introspective aesthetic. Beauty to modesty. No, it's not beauty to modesty. It's beauty to subtlety. Modesty is interesting, but it actually has nothing to do with it, really. And only in that it's neutral, and its modesty implies an intention or affection or something. Affection, by affection I mean like being affected by something. This is just completely neutral. Maybe an introspective aesthetic and an intellectual aesthetic rather than a cosmetic one. An intellectual aesthetic rather than a cosmetic one. Intellectual, yes, but also emotional aesthetic. In fact, emotional aesthetic maybe more than intellectual aesthetic, rather than a cosmetic one. That's me judging without reading from 10,000 miles away. Yeah, I mean, this is right up your alley. This is right up your alley for you. You absolutely should find this book and read it. I'm sure you can find it online. It's I don't know if it'd be fun to read online, but a great book. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and is that all the? Yeah, beauty to subtlety, I think is what I think so. It's just It's neither here nor there. There's no there's no yeah, it's a little hard to explain. It's like it's neutral. It's a very neutral I don't know how to articulate it, but it's it basically postulates that like we had 10,000 years of civilization and aesthetic on which to base all of our design principles upon. And it was only like in a flash, that we just changed everything. And then like when the West came in to Japan, we suddenly, by we I mean the Japanese, they suddenly like adopted all of these aesthetics, the flashy lights, the neon lights, the vibrant clothes, the all of these things that trampled all over um, this aesthetic that was purely like utilitarian. And the beauty, yeah, like, and the beauty like emerges from the utility somehow. um well, it sure ain't kitsch anyway. That's clear. Yeah, no, it's really it's simple, but it's not groundbreaking, but it's an interesting perspective. It's an and anyway, the guy who translated it to English is the guy who's writing the afterword here. He says, "In Praise of Shadows is an essay on aesthetics by an eminent Japanese novelist, but to sum it up as such is as likely to mislead as to enlighten. For in this case, neither novelist nor essay nor aesthetics fits very neatly within the usual boundaries of these terms. Tanizaki's literary career spanned more than half a century. He lived from 1886 to 1965 and was as varied as it was long." This is his literary career. "Even the slender sampling of his novels available in English suggests something of the range of his imagination. Some prefer nettles," which is the Japanese title is Tade Kumushi from in around 1928, 1929, analyzes the conflicting emotions of a wealthy businessman as his unfaithful wife attempts to extricate herself from their marriage. Another novel is The Makioka Sisters. The Japanese title is Sase Miyuki. He wrote it. It took 5 years to write it, from 43 to 48. Is a minutely detailed portrait of four daughters of an old Osaka mercantile family, centering upon their attempt to find an acceptable husband for the beautiful but painfully reticent second sister, Yukiko. The Key, or Kagi, the Japanese title, from 1956, portrays his sexual fantasies of an aging university professor, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, who ultimately dies of the exquisite thrill of seducing his wife into an affair with a young lover. Diary of a Mad Old Man, which the Japanese title is Futen Ryojin Nikki, around 1961, is just that. The man's madness being a geriatric's consuming urge to satisfy his renewed sexual appetites before death overtakes him. It's just that. The man's madness being a geriatric's consuming blah 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 blah. Anyway, but the facet of Tanizaki's talent in which, in The Praise of Shadows, this book belongs, his deep, even scholarly interest in the traditional culture of Japan, may not be so readily apparent to the reader of English translations. The scenes set in the puppet theater in Some Prefer Nettles, a previous novel of his, and the overtones of courtly sensibility that pervade the Makioka sisters hint at this fascination, but its most direct manifestation was a body of historical fiction, only a small part of which has been translated. We have in English but 2 chapters of The Mother of Captain Shigemoto, an eerie novel set in the 9th century, and a meager assortment of novellas and short stories, 3 of which are conveniently assembled in Howard Hibbett's 7th Japanese Tales. Okay, a mere fraction of the whole. And in addition to the historical fiction, Tanizaki spent a vast amount of time translating the tale of Genji Monogatari, from the year 1010, into modern Japanese. His rendition is as impressive for its historical and philosophical erudition as for the beauty of its language. In Praise of Shadows, then, is a work of an extraordinary learned novelist, and not simply a charming example of that flourishing genre, the literary man's essay on a non-literary subject. The point is worth noting, for successful novelists in Japan are inundated with requests to hold forth on subjects that are often far removed from their knowledge, and their witty but airy ramblings on the latest political scandal, the housing problem, impressionistic painting, or whatever abound in the best newspapers and magazines. Tanizaki himself must have contributed several such pieces, as we summarize from his reference to being interviewed on the subject on unusual foods. He talks about a lot of food in this. But when he writes of traditional aesthetics, he speaks with authority of matters he cared about intensely. In Praise of Shadows, again, this book's title, is anything but the empty dreams of a novelist. A well-stocked mind, perhaps, a critical reader might answer, but a vagrant mind. And there is no denying that Tanizaki does wander. From architecture to toilets. There's another one. I was like, what the fuck? Because he does. He writes about the beauty of taking a shit in a Japanese toilet. And he's not talking about the modern toilets. He's talking about the outhouses of ancient, or not ancient, but of turn of the century Japan, and the difference between like going and enjoying a Japanese garden and like defecating in release full bliss amongst the peonies, you know. It's really quite well written, and I was like, oh, I did toilets too. I did toilets too. So there's a lot of overlap here. It's pretty interesting. Let's see. Often with only the most tenuous of transitions, and quite as often turning back to repeat himself. To the Western reader, trained to expect symmetry and logical progression in an essay, the urge to edit Tanizaki, there you go, 40, you can edit Tanizaki if you want, is at times almost irresistible. He has a perverse habit of shifting without warning from a tone of high seriousness to something near facetiousness, as when he recommends the toilet as a major source of poetic inspiration. His descriptions of lacquerware under candlelight. Ding, lacquerware under candlelight. This is a very big, important theme in this book. Lacquerware under candlelight. And women in the darkness of the house of pleasure are perfect jewels. But would they not stand out to better advantage removed from the company of that murmuring bowl of soup and Einstein's trip to Kyoto? He talks about a trip that Einstein made to Kyoto, which was very interesting. Yet to do so would drain the life of In Praise of Shadows. For Tanizaki's essays work in ways different from the Western essay and demands the freedom of his seemingly haphazard style. And it's just like reading this afterward made me kind of appreciate the essay more and more as I kind of like this guy helped me kind of like understand what I had just read. One of the oldest and most deeply ingrained of Japanese attitudes to literary style holds that too obvious a structure is contrivance, that too orderly of an exposition falsifies the ruminations of the heart, that the truest representation of the searching mind is just to follow the brush. Indeed, it would not be far wrong to say that the narrative technique we call stream of consciousness has an ancient history in Japanese letters. It is not that Japanese writers have been ignorant of the powers of concision and articulation. Rather, they have felt that certain subject, the vicissitudes, help me out there, of the emotions, the fleeting perceptions of the mind, are best couched in a style that conveys something of the uncertainty of the mental process and not just its neatly packaged conclusions. I fucking love that. Rather they have felt that certain subject, the vestitudes, the many ideas of emotions, the fleeting perceptions of the mind, are best couched in a style that conveys something of the uncertainty of the mental process. The uncertainty of the mental process. That is what I'm doing right this very second, is I am bathing in the uncertainty of the mental process. I'm basking in it right now, and not just its neatly packaged conclusions. I never get to. I hope to get to them, but they're not dependent upon the conclusions. It's purely the mental process, the fleeting perceptions of the mind. Thus it was that the compilers of the great classical anthologies, perhaps the most painstakingly structured compilations in the history of any literature, deliberately muted the sense of seasonal progression by frequent backtracking and insisted upon a background of quite ordinary poems to set off the truly stellar compositions. And thus it is that Tanizaki's subjects require the shadowy style in which he treats it. Questions of the sort he raises have no final answers, and the mind of the writer who takes them up must always be groping, his statements always tentative. Susan Sontag has put the matter well in explaining her choice of style in Notes on Camp. To snare a sensibility in words, especially one that is alive and powerful, one must be tentative and nimble. The forms of jottings, rather than an essay, with its claim to a linear consecutive argument, seem more appropriate for getting down something of this particular fugitive sensibility. Of that. Tanizaki would surely claim the same for the aesthetic he attempts to delineate. Tanizaki's aesthetic speaks for itself and needs no explanation, but it should be pointed out that his is not in every way an orthodox view of Japanese taste. For one thing, he conspicuously refrains from claims of some mysterious aesthetic sensibility in the Japanese genes. He does talk about, like, he talks about the skin tone of Japanese, and it's a little weird to read, I think, in like by modern morals, and but it's interesting. He just talks about the theater of no, and about the porcelain masks and how it accentuates the skin tone of the Japanese, and how it doesn't, because the Western white audiences are often under bright lights and their skin doesn't reflect light in the same way. It's a little bit interesting. We could forgive him if he did. The notions is centuries old and has the endorsement of the most eminent artists and scholars. That the Japanese sensibility is in some ways unique is, to be sure, one of his main points, but he traces the uniqueness to more basic and more believable sources than national character. It's light. Architecture developed as it did because of climatic conditions and the nature of available building materials. So he's saying that, like, our roofs are really, really thick and they don't let light in. And that's why the aesthetics of home furnishings look the way that they do, because they have to look beautiful in this light that came to us out of necessity of thousands of years of architecture. I'm not talking about like modern buildings. I'm talking about like thatch roofed huts that you see in the countryside that some are still standing. And to Tanizaki, this meant the whole of life, the base as well as the noble, eating and defecating as well as playgoing, and the contemplation of calligraphy. Here lies another reason for following uncritically the erratic course of this essay. His descents to the earthy plane of toilets and recipes are vital to his aesthetic, and his ascents to the ethereal realm of ancient temples of the no theater. If you don't know no, it's sort of like kabuki, but much more sort of actually harder to understand. Few will follow him quite so uncritically, so as to agree that the traditional conception of the female beauty was the inevitable result of having yellow skin, but we must admit that his insistence upon basic and natural causes contributes much to the eloquence of his argument. The consequence of such an argument is an essentially pessimistic aesthetic, the aesthetic not of a celebrant but of a mourner, he's constantly saying like, oh, I wish we had the light the way that it used to be when it wasn't so vibrant, when it wasn't so Western, essentially, is what he's saying. He's talking about how like kabuki is so garish, this like art form that we know to be this sort of like high society art form. Like we know like David Bowie borrowed from kabuki, and this band I was talking about, Sekosi Mahos, they like kabuki seems to be this like incredibly sophisticated art form, and this thing that I know that's sort of like another version of kabuki. It's called Noh, the Noh theater. It's fucking weird. It's very avant-garde, and it's these people with masks and they don't hardly do anything, and it's all these like micro movements, and it's very weird. But I've seen it half a dozen times, and I will never look at it again after having read this book. He makes an incredible manifesto about why it's much more sophisticated, and it all comes down to light. Tanizaki holds no hope for the survival of the sensibility that grew from a way of life now passing out of existence. By 1933, when In Praise of Shadows was written, much of what he described has either perished or was preserved, fossil-like, in surroundings that betrayed its true beauty. Traditional building materials and appliances were being replaced by glittering Western inventions. Gold, he talks about gold and like gold flecked art. It's so amazing. Gold flecked lacquerware has been rendered garish by electric light. Flood lamps had turned the kabuki into a world of sham, he calls it. Good grief. I can't imagine somebody calling kabuki a world of sham. It's sacrilegious, but here he is. He's just written it. Had he written later in his career, he might well have added the Noh theater and perhaps the Japanese house to his list of the moribund. Yeah, he might have like hated everything a little bit. He might have grown to, it just might have all gone away. I feel like you can still find it. I just suddenly have a whole new, blinders just went wide open. I am always talking about how Tokyo just sheds and sheds and sheds and sheds. And it is that juxtaposition of it shedding and it's preserving. But I don't think it's particularly a Japanese thing for just everything to change all the time. It's a capitulation to the rest of the world. And if it could have its druthers, is that the word? It would keep the ideals that Tanizaki had about the Japanese aesthetic. Here again, Tanizaki runs counter to orthodoxy. His pessimism, and probably his earthiness too, would not be at all popular with this modern artistic establishment, the masters of flower arrangement, tea ceremony, calligraphy, painting, dance. Many of these people make handsome livings by their art, and as the government's chosen cultural emissaries, have been influential shapers of the image of Japanese culture that is packaged for export. That's scathing. The implication of their art is stillborn. The implication that their art is stillborn could not be resented. Tanizaki, however, would dismiss it as cold and sterile, too far removed from the sources of its life to claim any vitality. The scattered vestiges of excellence still survive, he would not deny, and anyone who has seen, for instance, the votive performance of Noh on a weathered outdoor stage, I have seen this, of a temple or shrine, must agree that they do survive. They do. I'm just like getting emotional just thinking about it. I didn't understand it. I really didn't understand it, and now I get it. It's stunning. It's really, it's just like divine. It's so gorgeous because it's like it's light being cast on a canvas of, that's what you're watching. You're watching light is what I'm taking away from this. But for Tanizaki, a museum piece is no cause for rejoicing. An art must live as part of our daily lives, or we had better give it up. we can admire it for what it once was and try to understand what made it so. And Tanizaki does in Praise of Shadows. I'll stop there. Oh, it's a great fucking book. And now I understand why all these really hip people that are connected to this bookstore where I'm going to go this week, why this was sitting on like 10 of their shelves. Well, maybe not 10, but like definitely 4. And so I'm very, very glad I picked it up. And it's like 70 pages. It's hardly a read. I mean, I read it in like less than an hour. It's great. Really cool. And I especially if you're here in Japan, this is fantastic. I 20 years I should have read this the day I arrived. Maybe I wouldn't have understood it, but thank you for letting me read that. I appreciate it. Let me read some of these comments. Okay. Sounds like maybe the author got his message across by preferring to describe rather than explain. Yes, very much so. That is very accurate, I would say. Thanks for subscribing. Let's see. In Praise of Shadows could double as a book title on John Alton, famous film noir cinematographer of the 1940s. Oh, what's that word? What is that? I know that expression. I dare not try. Italian word, right? I know that word. I'm gonna do my homework. I'm not gonna embarrass myself. Yes, hence describing rather than explaining. Yes, okay. Well, you sold it to me. All right, cheers. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. Are the best parts about uncertainty of process in the same chapter as the points about shitting in the outhouse? The shitting in the outhouse is quite good. That's a good part because I kind of like didn't. I think they shat differently like 100 years ago. Truly, they did. I think it was like a whole different thing. There was still an outhouse, but when I say outhouse, it wasn't like a old west, saloon outhouse. It was like a little bamboo, tatami walkway to the annex, the toilet annex, I think, that overlooked the garden with like no door on it. And maybe in the wintertime you're freezing your ass off, but it's just so stunningly beautiful. I don't know, maybe he's romanticizing it a bit, but it's pretty fun to read. It would be nice to shit in the, it'd be nice to just shit with the door open, with a beautiful Japanese garden. And like, that's he talks about like the garden. The Japanese like accept that the garden gives you the light that it gives you. It's a lot of this kind of like, I don't want to call it surrendering, but it's like it's a harmony of living with the light that you're given and not necessarily coercing the light into some way that it doesn't want to be naturally. So let's see. Same argument also values a narrative that trips on tangents, digression. Yeah, this thing, I didn't really realize that how like meandering it was until I got here to the end. Because he does like meander. I was like, oh, okay, we're talking about toilets. Oh, we're talking about sex. Oh, we're talking about those black tea thing. Oh, we're talking about ceramics. Oh, we're talking about pores. It's like gold flake things. We're talking. It was all over the place, but it's fun. It was quite a fun read. I had to use that philosophy and methodology in my thesis. Why is that? I got like a dead pixel there. Just to shut up my goddamn first supervisor. Okay, I like digressions, don't you? Look at Gogol. Okay, whoever you are, Siri, or who are you? One of the robots is talking to me. Read the first few passages of Dead Souls again, and you'll see how one mad little digression can give reverberation and density to ordinary narrative. Okay. I'll have to go back and read that comment. Orson Welles. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, that's my rant. It's time for me to go to sleep. Damn it. I went 2 hours. I meant to go 1. Okay, I'm definitely going to sleep. I think I got excited there. I talked about too many topics. Well, thank you for letting me share about the Vox Pop. It was crazy to read the word Vox Pop in this book. like written 100 years ago. Thanks for sharing the cardboard topics, the toilet topics. Thanks for letting me talk about Girl Scout cookies and Granddaddy and Beatles stuff and this bookstore that I'm going to go photograph, and photography. I'm always talking about photography. It was a fun little, it was a fun musing. Okay, guys, have a great weekend. Have a great Friday. Have a great end of the week and beginning of the weekend. I've got the entire week off next week, and I'm going to be writing and playing and relaxing and just doing everything that I can do to get all the things that I want to do done. So maybe you'll see some more of me. And thanks to Grasshopper, who was in the house, and Orinoco Flojo, Dude Ass Face, 4D. Always appreciate your North Carolina vinyl picker. Chance from Concert Buddy stopped by. Dallas finally caught up on a live stream. Stunty was here. I Am One of Us was in the house. Yeah, I appreciate all you guys being here. It's a nice crew. I'm gonna have we'll have a round table. We'll have a round table soon enough. Maybe I'll do one of those over the next week. You guys come and hang out and let's talk. Yeah. Okay, let me appeal to the like button. Smash that if you wouldn't mind. I'd most appreciate it. And look out for a cool bookstore video coming up this weekend. Hope I can get it finished. Wish me luck. You guys take care. Have a good one. See you on the next stream. Bye.